Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's council meeting. We have kind of linked the agenda so we can get started tonight. Let's start with, I call this meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. Let's get started with approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any amendments?
Yeah, I'm going to be striking the USA Election Board calendar special presentation, and I need to add a new business action item. So other folks can go first, and then we can vote at the end.
Can we strike capital contingency, please?
Striking capital contingency. Making noise, officer report, verbal. Oops, that's Sachi. So sorry. Noise.
Sachi, did you want to add the discussion item about surplus for next quarter or the next surplus?
Yes, I was just pulling up the agenda to see if it was there. Yeah, could we add it as just a discussion item? And also, can we strike TGIF?
Yep. Added surplus and striking TGIF. Striking TGMF and ASRF. I'm also going to strike ARC because Promise isn't here. Okay, cool. So I'm going to motion to add USAC Election Board or USA Election Board change election code. I'm so sorry. USA Election Code changes to new business. Let me get a second.
A second.
Okay, Emily motions, Justin seconds. All in favor or all voting yes? Wait, Bacher seems to be an attendee. Oh, okay. He just. Okay, by a vote of 10-0, the motion passes and the agenda is approved.
It's the
or sorry, the edit has been made. My bad.
The social media guidelines, are they an action item?
I would say they're part of the election code, so I would call them action items. I don't know. Is Alfred here?
No, he's not coming until the end of council.
Okay. Well, Dr. Geller, would social media guidelines be action items?
There, I think if it's part of the election code itself, it would be. If it's campaign rules, it would be more of a consent item. So I'm not sure how they're presenting it.
Okay. Let's just wait for now, and then if he gets here and we need to change it, we'll just motion to change it.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any more amendments? If not, can I get a motion?
I motion to approve the agenda for February 9th.
A second.
Emily motions, Justin seconds. All in favor? am I not allowed to say that?
No, you just switched it.
Oh, okay. Okay. By a vote of 10 to 0, the motion passes and the agenda is approved. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Moving on to approval of the minutes. Does anyone want to, if you all had a chance to read it, motion for the minutes from 2 to February 2nd?
I motion to approve the minutes for February 2nd.
Okay. Awesome. Second, anybody?
Second.
Breeze motions, Emily seconds. All in favor, raise your hands. Breeze, your raise hand function doesn't work, right?
It sometimes doesn't and sometimes doesn't.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. By a vote of 10 to 0, the motion passes and the minutes from last week were approved. Okay. Moving on to our funding bodies, or no, sorry, public comment. So if you would like to give public comment, just remember that public comment is 2 minutes. Please raise your hand and we will upgrade you as panelists. And remember to use gender inclusive language, attack the idea, not the person, and freedom of speech does not mean freedom from accountability. So if you'd like to give public comment, I will promote you, or Emily, someone will promote you. Going once, going twice. Okay, given as there's no public comment tonight, we will be concluding public comment at 7:11 p.m. Thanks all. Moving on to our funding bodies, we have contingency. Go ahead, David.
Hi, everyone. So this week, the total amount requested was $5,035.11, and then the total amount recommended was $4,755.27, and this would be to 14 non-USAC entities and 2 USAC entities.
Okay. David, are those numbers in the chat? Oh yeah, they are. Sorry.
Yeah, just put them in there.
I motion to approve the allocation of $4,755.27 to 2 USAC entities and 14 non-USAC entities. Was that right?
Yep.
Awesome.
A second.
Awesome. Sachi motions, Justin seconds. All in favor, raise your hands. Okay. All abstaining? Okay. Alice, are you abstaining too? Okay. And then all against? No worries, no worries. I just know he said 2 USAC entities. Okay, awesome. By a vote of 8 to 0 to 1, the motion passes and the contingency allocations for this week are approved. I assume Jonathan's not here. That's why SFS isn't canceled or wasn't crossed out. SWC Programming Fund, Christina?
Yes, okay. This is also linked on the SWC weekly updates, but this week $1,559.93 was allocated towards Melanin Medicine for a research symposium. And thank you, Naomi, for inviting them to council because that's how we got connected. Mabuhay Collective for a winter wellness event, the pre-dental student outreach program for a dental hygiene trivia night, and then Manmukti for a South Asian LGBTQ+ support circle.
Awesome. Thank you, Christina. Does anybody have any opposition to those funding proposals? Okay, great. Seeing as there's no opposition, Christina, the SWC programming fund allocations are approved for this week. Thanks again. And I assume also, is Aiden here for bag? No, okay. So we'll skip it or possibly move on, but we'll move on to the special presentations for tonight, starting with the USAC budget viewer. And I see we have Jacob Linder here.
Hello. Hi. Is
Hi.
there any way I can share screen? This is kind of like a visual presentation.
Yeah. Emily, can you share screen? Yes, and please feel free to introduce yourself to council too.
Okay, yeah, awesome. So, okay, I'm Jacob. I work as the IT director in the ISR office. I'm also on the board of a CCI. And over the past number of months, we've been like working to make this USAC budget viewing tool to make it easier to view USAC's budget history. So yeah, it's almost ready to go live on the site. So I'll give you guys like a brief little tour of what it can do. So we can look at all of the previous years of a USAC's budget, and then there's a bunch of cool like filters within the tool that allow you to search for exactly what you want to look for. So like right now, you can see we're on the year 2019 to 2020. And so far, there's only been about 1.3 million inputted for this year. Generally, there's about like $10 million a year, as most of you probably know. And then, so what this does is it shows like the most popular keywords from within that year's budget. And then you can actually filter by these keywords. So for example, if you wanted to filter by all of the items that had something to do with utility, you can just click utility. And then you get a cool little filter that says utility at the top. And then you can view the table, and then you can scroll through and you can like see all of the individual items that make up that certain section. So the purpose of this tool is to allow you to filter the budget in ways that makes it easier to view exactly what you want to view. So let's say you just want to filter by the amount. You can like click this amount button. You can view like the highest amount. So the $50,000 charge in October 3rd, 2019 for maintenance and utility charges. So I can also do like searches in the table. So maybe I just want to do a search for maintenance. I can type in like maintenance. And then the table will filter to everything that has something to do with maintenance. So like $76,000. And there's a whole bunch of other ways you can filter things. Like maybe you want to filter by the fund, see who funded it. So we can see that about a quarter of the stuff for 2019 to 2020 is filtered by membership fees. So I can I can click this, and you can see we have like a membership fee filter added. And then maybe I want the amount to just be just large items. Maybe I don't really care about the small items. So everything above 30,000. So I can filter from 30,000 to 50,000. And then now if I look at my table, sorry, the little subtitles in the way. Okay, I can see everything funded by membership fees that's above $30,000. And I can remove any type of filters that I want. I can go back. I can add different ones. Filter by general ledger. I can filter by the date when the thing was added. Maybe I just want to look in stuff that was added from October to December. Go back to the table, and I can see all the items here. So there's a bunch of different ways you can filter things. Like I can go back to the keywords to get like maybe a more visual representation of everything. Okay, it looks like it doesn't want to show up right now. It is still in final approval, so do not worry. I think it might be like freezing up right now, actually. I think I have bad internet connection. Okay, but anyways, so you can add your filters, and then if you look down here, you can see this copy link button. So you can actually like filter to a certain thing that you want. You can copy the link, and then you can send it to somebody else, so that they can see exactly what you're viewing. So as a way to help analyze the budget, sort of as a group, you can do that. So. Any questions on any of the features of the budget viewer?
Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for coming to council and all that. I actually think this is really cool. I think my question is about like what are your like finishing steps to like put on it, and kind of this second question is directed towards all of council, like um, how would we integrate it into like the USAC website and stuff like that? So first question for you, Jacob, but yeah.
Yeah, so we've been doing final like approvals for a little while now. I've been working with the webmaster, and I've given it to the webmaster, and he has some final checks that he needs to do. I think he needs to make sure it meets ADA compliancy. He needs to make sure it's secure, make sure everything's working properly, which it doesn't seem to be working right now. I think it's just an internet connection issue or something. So yeah, once the webmaster is done approving it, which should hopefully be within the next couple of weeks, I think he's gonna put it somewhere on the USAC website, sort of as its own page. So there will be on the USAC website, there will be a link, and then you can click the link and it will take you to this page. Yeah, so anything else?
Yeah.
Justin, I know the other half of your question was directed towards council. Maybe we can save it for like after the other questions. Is that cool? Okay, cool. So then we'll go Sachi and then Laura.
Yeah, hi, thank you for coming in and presenting. I was just wondering if there's any aspect of this that kind of describes the descriptions that you have. So for example, like maintenance, is it described as USAC council voting to spend that money, or is there a delineation between, what essentially we don't allocate on a given year that's already pre-allocated due to a referenda or something like that? And just in general, are there descriptions for all of these different kind of labels that you have, so that people understand what they're seeing?
Right. So the way that these entries are added in are, I don't think these are like, these are as the items are added in, so it's not like a forward-looking budget or anything. The accountant for each of the entries does have like a full description for each of the entries. We don't have that integrated right now. So yeah, right now, some of the like entries are a little bit terse, and like hard to understand, not super descriptive. But once we get it on the website, what we're planning to have like a second round of updates at some point, where what you can do is you can like go to the table and you can hover your mouse over one of the entries or something, and you would get like a full description of that specific item. So we don't have not a super high level of a description for each of the entries at the moment. This is more just generally how is USAC spending its money.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes total sense. And like, obviously I understand that this would have to come in phases, but I would definitely advocate that, as council, if we're putting this on the website, that we give some kind of description of, for example, like the difference between a membership fee and a certain referenda fee. Like, I think it's important that if we're presenting this data so that the student body is getting a better understanding. And I think that this tool does like a great job of starting that conversation and visualizing, what our budgets are, but the visualization is only as helpful as understanding what's in it. So I think that maybe as council, we can help to put in that work, or kind of help to show you resources for kind of overall descriptions, not line item descriptions, but like overall kind of descriptions for what the different categories and labels that you have are, so that students are getting a better sense of kind of what the money is.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say, oh, go ahead, Jacob.
I was just going to say, yeah, that's definitely something that to add down the line. I think like, well, the point of these sort of like a pie graphs here is so you have departments, so who spends the money, and so you can like hover over and you can say, okay, this 54,000 is spent by campus retention committee, the non-USA fee. So maybe like, yeah, it's maybe a lot of students won't know exactly what that means. So that's something to work on. But I think at least the point of these like pie charts, just in general, like division, who controls money, I think that's like somewhat straightforward. So, I mean, yeah, we're always looking for ways to make it more accessible, ways to make it make more sense.
Yeah, thank you, Jacob. I also just wanted to say my office has been working on a similar, less comprehensive than this visually, but definitely getting at what Sachi was mentioning about who oversees what money. And even like the breakdown that you had right now, like technically these are all USAC fees. They just pass through USAC. And Roy does a really good job of explaining what that process looks like. But I second Sachi's points about making sure that students know exactly where they're going to, like you had mentioned. Laura?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for sharing. It's a really cool tool. I was just wondering about like the potential other uses for this. So yeah, is it purely an archival tool for transparency, or are there plans to use this internally as well, to perhaps help create prospective budgets, for example? Yeah, interested to hear your thoughts.
I think at least what we've talked about is we've only really talked about is sort of as like a history, as a budget history rather than a forward looking thing. So I think like making some sort of forward looking tool would be interesting as well. I think though, at least the way this is like set up, where like so you hit administrative overhead, and here you have like all of the specific items for administrative overhead. So I mean maybe if you can like somehow enter in all of these specific items, to make to I don't know. I guess it would be like somewhat difficult to make this forward looking, because I'm assuming forward looking is going to be a little bit more broad. It'll probably look something more like this, just like a general, like I'm not sure exactly how you guys do your budget, but I'm sure it's a little bit more general than line items. So yeah, I don't know about forward looking. That could be something interesting to add in the future. But I think our goal with this is not, when you say archive, that means sort of like far in the past. Our goal with this is to we've built sort of like a system, and we're refining it right now to where the accountant, like we don't know exactly the frequency, maybe like every month or so, can just like export the data for the previous month and then send it to the webmaster, and then it should just be a very simple process for the webmaster to upload it to this tool. So hopefully this can be kept very much up to date.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think that it would be interesting to see if there is, in the future, a way to use it in a forward-thinking way, as you said. But yeah, I understand that you're kind of at the mercy of how different offices categorize things, which is always a struggle. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. Bacher?
Hi. So I just have an observation. And first of all, like, thank you, Jacob, for the presentation. Um, and my observation is because we started working on this last year, and I was one of the people who went through the 2000, 2019 budget, and going through the descriptions. And I would say two things. The first one is that even the descriptions provided and like the full descriptions don't really always tell the full story. Like they are full of acronyms, um, and I some words like um, t-shirts. Um, I think I counted five different ways of writing that word, and I think because that there is a maximum number of characters or something for the descriptions. And so maybe we can like something for the future that the line items that we provide the descriptions are more descriptive. And the second thing is that we can use those categories as labels in the future. So instead of going through and analyzing the data, for each year, we can just part of submitting the forms or like the line items, we include those labels. If it's like for food or like for maintenance or whatever. So those might be some future applications um, that are easily applicable.
Right. Yeah. I think if I remember, I think I think the character maximum is 90 characters for the descriptions in the software that the accountant uses. So when the accountant has to export the data that we use for this, we get that abbreviated um, uh, version of the descriptions of the line items. I think though, I didn't add this. The person that was working on this before me added it for the descriptions that don't want to show up right now. But they on the descriptions, they it will actually like this descriptions tab, which shows you like all of the words. And the bigger the word, the more common it is in the budget. That actually de-abbreviates a lot of the like line item things. But even that can be like somewhat broad because I mean the keywords will just show one word, right? And the line items will have multiple words. So, but the accountant has like a separate list of all of the like descriptions for the line items that include the full non-abbreviated description. So it's not limited to that 90 character maximum. So yeah, I think once we get this on the website, which is our first priority right now, but I think the next thing that we'll add in our first round of updates is to make it so that the budget viewer can also like parse through that all of those like longer descriptions. And then so that way maybe you get the abbreviated version in the table, but if you hover over it or something, it will give you the longer description that the accountant has entered. Maybe that won't get you all the way, like it won't describe maybe everything you want to know about that specific item, but it'll at least make it more clear about what exactly that item is.
Thank you. Thank you, Bakr, for your question, and also Jacob. So last two questions, Zuleika and then Justin.
Hi, Jacob. Thank you so much for presenting this. I think that it's very visually pleasing. And I think it's very user-friendly as well. Like the way that you worked it out was very like simple. I have two questions. My first question is, how far back are you looking to fill in like the budgets? Like, are you just going to keep the 2019, 2020 and then fill in last year's 2020 to 2021? And then I have my next question after.
I think it already includes the budget all the way from back to like 2001. It's being, I think I'm using too much like bandwidth right now, so it's not being very happy with me. But I'm pretty sure it goes all the way. You can click on this year filter, and you can view all of the years between. I think it's 2000. Oh, here we go. 2002. So you can view all the way back to the 2002 and the 2003 school year.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. My next question is, how will this be maintained in the future, given that This is held within the ISR office, so I'm just wondering how this is going to be published, like in the future. I don't know if you have a plan on who you will pass this on to, or how this will continue, since again, it's basically staying within the ISR office.
Right. I think it's both like within the ISR as well as the as well as within CCI. So I already know somebody else in CCI that wants to start working on this and add some updates. So I think I don't think it'll just be contained through the ISR, but through CCI as well. I think this will be something that CCI will be keeping up to date. That'll be at least for the programming end, like adding new features or whatever to the program itself. Will just be within someone's job within CCI. The actual budget data that gets added, I have documentation written out for that. That will make it so that the next whoever the next webmaster is and whoever the next accountant is can just look at that documentation, and it should be a simple process to just add the extra line items to the budget viewer.
Okay. My only worry is that this is a really great tool. But as we know, sometimes people in office don't last forever. Sometimes slates or like student organizations don't last forever. So I think it's important that a plan is made, and maybe even possibly institutionalizing this into some form so that it continues to go on even after students like yourself leave, because I think this is a really important tool that can be very helpful for students in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, for sure. We'll make sure it's maintained. We'll make the code well documented, so anybody that wants to pick it up and add anything to it in the future, it should be fairly simple to do that. But okay,
Awesome.
any other questions?
Yeah, our last question, we have Justin.
Yeah, again, this was, was my hand still up that whole time?
Yeah, but
it was the
yeah.
same question. I didn't have a second, but another question. It was the question directed towards council. I guess what I think of in folks asking their questions, I've kind of picked up that they're we may want to well, it sounds like Jacob is already in the process of and pretty far along talking to webmaster and all that. So I think as council, I had a question about what it looks like to put this on the website. Should we I'm personally not super pressed about waiting for I think it is important that we do include some of the descriptions of and give context to certain pass-through fees and stuff like that. But I'm not sure as council, do we want to wait for that? What does that look like? Or I don't know. Does any of that make sense? Anyone want to?
Yeah, thank you, Justin, for that question. And I don't know if folks have answers to that. I personally was thinking about this through the conversation too. And I think that if we are to put any kind of tool out to the student body, it should at least be reflected that it's not a finished product, or that, there's still changes and updates to be made, so that it doesn't look like we're trying to obscure facts, or so that it doesn't look like data is being manipulated in a certain way. To either make ourselves look good or to point fingers at different offices. So I feel like the biggest thing would be making sure that it's noted that this was also I would just say that making sure that it's noted that it's not a finished product. Sachi?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I also think that given that it's essentially just a visualization of data that's already available, I'm not pressed on having us, include the descriptions, but I would want that to be something that is in the works, because I think if we're going to roll out something that is, you know, supposed to help the public understand what the budget is, then as Naomi said, like we should make sure that we're doing that in a responsible manner that is, you know, explaining more than just like, I think the visualization is a good first step, but like it's important to explain it if we're kind of doing this whole rollout of like, oh, look, there's this accessibility aspect. So, you know, as long as we have that in the works and like getting started and it's going to be on there soon and we note that it's going to be on there soon, then I think it's fine to kind of go ahead on whatever timeline was already there.
Right. And in addition to that too, I see other comments. Blocker notes that it's totally normal for like when tech rollouts are, or tech projects are released, you usually update them with more features later on. And that's like totally true. Definitely agree with what Sachi said too. I think the other thing that might be useful is ensuring, like I see an email to USA Council, maybe, you know, having a way for students to be able to understand that if they have questions, they can email, you know, us or email Roy or whoever is the point person on these matters. So does anybody else have any thoughts before we conclude this item? Justin, was that an old hand? Sorry.
Bro, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Christina, go ahead.
Sorry, I just have like one final thought for a potential future thing, and I think that this might be hard since you're using the publicly available data, but I wanted to note that SWC, at least, and I suspect probably other offices as well, we kind of like we categorize our expenditures, so we like have an idea of what the expense categories are, and we make like we're in the process of like going back and making our own pie charts and things like that. So I don't know if that is helpful to you or if we can help you by providing you with, oh, this item was an event, this item was a giveaway kind of thing.
I think, I don't know exactly how the like data retrieval or how exactly we get the budget data retrieval. I don't think this comes directly from publicly available data, because I mean I guess it comes down to whenever the accountant receives the like financial data of all the various groups. So that was another thing we were kind of talking about, is like sort of urging other groups, like once we get this out and have this tool ready to go, using this as sort of pressure on them to say, hey, we have this tool and we need to get your financial data as quickly as possible. And then so the accountant can stick that in. I think like I'm not sure how he gets it, but he can already get like all of the specific events for all of the data and for all of the line items and whatnot. So yeah, I think another point as well, going back to what we're talking about, this not how we don't want this to look like we're obscuring data because some of the like descriptions are a little bit not fully expansive. I mean, we have a little, we stuck the emails down below, so you can email the accountant directly if you want. You can email we have the USAC council email here. We have a feedback form that you can click and fill out and say what you like and you don't like. And we have like, we've talked about some. This is just like a first sort of way to visualize everything. And we've definitely talked about adding some more pretty like intensive stuff. Like I think one of the things that Orion was talking with me about to add to this is like he called me the other day and he said, what if we had some machine learning thing that would go through and you can just type and say, hey, show me all the money that USAC spent on salt over the last 5 years, and it would just like come up with all the visualizations of that specific thing for you. But I mean, like obviously that sort of stuff is like down the line, and adding like full descriptions and whatnot would probably take some more take time to get that all implemented in, get the system down to how we would get that data from the accountant and how that would interface with everything else. So I think, yeah, our number one goal is just getting this out, because I know that there's been complaints of like a lack of transparency. So hopefully this will quell some of those complaints, and then definitely updates in the future will help improve that.
Yeah, thank you, Jacob. Okay, Bacher, you will be our last comment, and then we will have to move on.
Yeah, okay. Since Christina said this, I think, yeah, Christina, regarding the labels, I think this is one of the things we are hoping to have like throughout the whole, ESAC. So this is like, you're already a step like before us, and then some of not all of the descriptions are, like available in the budget uh, document that you see um, on the USAC website. The descriptions come from the GSA, from the accounting, and so not like having the descriptions is already, and also an additional information. And finally, one of the I think the issues we have is that although USAC do have one accounting system, but USAC gives money to other, other entities, and once the money leaves USAC to those entities, whether it's CPO or like other, organizations, um, what happens to that money is really, the prerogative of that entity, and they have their own accounting systems and etc. So that is also another challenge in terms of, having a more transparent and comprehensive budget viewer. So maybe one of the things in the future, obviously, asking those entities like CPO to uh, give their data, which is not the easiest thing to do, but also to have some sort of a universal accounting uh, standard and system throughout, like, all of the entities that take money from USAC. So yeah.
Thank you, Bacher. And we agree. I think a lot of I would say conversation has come out about this too, and that's something that we've been in conversations with the CPO about recently. And yeah, I agree. +1 to everything you said. So thanks again, Jacob, for presenting this tool. We're super excited to see how this will be integrated onto the website, how folks will respond to it, and all of that good stuff. So thanks again for taking the time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Talk soon. Okay. Moving on to our next item, Bacher, you are actually the next presenter, International Student Survey. Take it away.
Okay. Okay, so I would need to share the screen.
Sorry, Buffer? Oh, yeah, there we go.
Oh, okay. Okay. So before we start, I do hope my internet connection holds up until the end of this presentation. Finger crossed. So yeah, here are the results of the recent survey we did on the effect of the pandemic on international undergraduates. To be specific, this survey ran during the um, end of winter quarter to spring. So this is like, the scope of the data. Here's like a quick view on the content. We start first with the demographics. So the good thing is that we have about 67 departments represented in the survey. Um, Unfortunately, only 8% of who responded are transfers. So this might be something we need to work on in the future. Generally, the survey demographic is leaning towards incoming internationals with about 70%. Um, and and then students who are outside of the US and live in a time zone difference of like 12 or more hours. That's about 58%. Another good thing is that this survey, like the number of responses in this survey, from incoming students actually represent about 15% of the incoming undergraduates, which is about like 500 students. So first we have like general well-being, and we can see, and this is a trend even like in following questions, that social and mental health are the most affected in during this pandemic. This is also seen in the effective time zone difference. So we have like general well-being and time zone difference effect on various areas. Um, and we see that academics and financial, although like there is significant, there is like I would say we in a sense we cannot turn a blind eye towards those effects in regard to academics and financial, but it's still less severe compared to mental and social, especially social. In terms of academic accommodation, we can see that departments in general were like more accommodating than professors. However, like the average, I would say, is in between, is around like between very accommodating and moderately accommodating, which is not necessarily a bad thing. In terms of lectures, we are doing great in terms of recorded lectures, but live participation is still required. Like there is about 20% of the students who filled the survey had all of their classes require live participation, with about 50% requiring yes 50% requiring some live participation. Um, in terms of having exams after midnight, about half of the population had at least three exams three exams after midnight. And just to be clear, for this question, we're asking about the total number of exams they had after midnight since the start of the pandemic. So this would mean, in a sense, since spring quarter, because winter everyone was already in the US, but spring is where uh, that where like students were already back in their countries, and more like uh, I would say accurate is also fall, because most of incoming students started from fall. Um, then we had like a select like number of issues, and we wanted students to rank them. And again, we can see that mental health is coming at the beginning. We can see here also that academic and physical health are also concerns. Compared to the start of the pandemic, visa issues are on the last on like uh, last end of like of the importance in terms of importance. Housing and food in general are not main concerns, but still there's like more than 25% who answer that it's like their first concern. So although they are not as important compared to mental health, which is about 50%, in terms of people who ranked it as first in terms of importance, but still it's 25 to 30%. In terms of access of technology, I think this is the sole good news about the survey, which is that the access to technology is really great in general. Yes, there's about 10% like looking to both of them questions that are facing issues, but compared to the many other questions, we're doing great. Then comes access to services, and unfortunately, it's not following the same trend in terms of technology. We can see that in general, like overall, there is reduced, like access to services is really reduced. Um, if, but like some departments have managed to kind of improve, like the writing center and academic counseling, Dashi center, and in a sense, career center. But like CAVS, there's and the library, specifically the library, are lacking in terms of adapting to the pandemic. Uh, Seeing this graph. Communication. So this is basically asking students how like they rate uh, the communications given by the university in terms of updates and developments. And we can see from here that it's around average, but like um, there is a fair amount of students saying it is poor and fair, and that is about 33% saying that. Entering the US. Here we are asking for three questions. The first one is which is basically, are they able to come to the US? Do they want to come to the US? And will coming to the US solve their issues? So for the first one, we can see that like about 56% are able to come to the US, but like there are others who cannot for different reasons, starting from incoming international students, people who have like their countries, they're part of a ban imposed by the US, or there's like a suspension of air travel. Um, and generally students are like willing and do want to come to the US, like about 80%. And there's a general belief that coming to the US would solve their issues, and I think this is really is because the time zone difference issue is solved. So key takeaways, I think I've already covered them in the previous slides. But generally, as I said, the demographic is leaning towards incoming international students who reside in a time zone difference of 12 hours. Social and mental health are the most affected areas. Departments are generally more accommodating compared to individual professors. 20% of students have required live participation in all of their classes. Recorded lectures are going well, um, and half of the population had either 3 or more exams after midnight. Access to technology is really great, but it's not the same thing for services, as they became harder compared to before the pandemic. Um, so yeah, I those are all of the questions. And I'm not sure if Amy is here, and the participants, but like I would really like to take the chance to thank her. She's the assistant director from Dash here, and she really helped us in terms of the data analysis. Also helped in training 2 members of my office. So really, like I want to really thank her for all of that, and for everyone for sharing the survey and supporting. So yeah, I think those are the results. Feel free to ask any questions.
Thank you, Bacher. I just wanted to say this is awesome. Also equally visually pleasing. And yeah, thank you for all the hard work that you've done to go through the process of data collection, especially when it's already very hard to retrieve data during these times. So does anybody have any questions for Bacher? Affirmations in the chat or out loud?
Thank you, Christina.
Laura, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for that presentation. It was really interesting. And it was, yeah, a little bit of a bummer to see that some teachers are not as accommodating as they should be, because no student should be taking a midterm at midnight. I guess my question is, what is the goal with this data? Are we hoping to send it to administration to see if they can require teachers and professors to be more lenient in the spring quarter, or yeah.
That's a really great question. Thank you. So we'll be using the data from the survey in different venues. So first, we have the Committee on International Education. That's one venue. I will be presenting this to Adashi Center in their staff meeting next week, and hopefully discussing how, like, collectively we can help in terms of these issues. Um, this will also just so, to provide some background. USAC did pass a resolution last quarter in support of academic accommodation for international students, and the Committee on International Education did respond to that, and basically asked the academic senate leadership uh, to basically adopt some of the accommodations in that resolution by USAC. And so we're hoping to also attach the information coming from this survey to that letter, which will be discussed in the next, I think, on the 18th of February. Yeah, it will be discussed on the 18th. Um, Altogether, like academic accommodation for international students. Um, so yeah, basically this is just the first step. We have the data and now we need to use it to basically. And here I want to quote one of the actually not one person, but I would say in different occasions I had individuals, faculty and administrators saying that uh, what I'm saying is just complaining, and there's uh, just few students. But apparently, as we can see from this data, it's not actually few students. It's like a larger issue. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Bakr, again for the presentation. Thing is, there's no more questions. We can move on, but let us know if you need anything, any support in getting this information out.
Thank you. Okay.
Yay. Okay. Great. Moving on to our next agenda item, we have another special. Oh my God, I can't speak today. Special presentation, USAC Seat at the Table initiative. And we have Areli and Vicente presenting from LASSO.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Vicente, and I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. We are, and first of all, we would like to say that we really appreciate the opportunity to talk about our organization and the things that our members have faced during the last year. Well, a little bit about us. We were founded in 2019, so we are a relatively new organization. Before the pandemic, we had about 35 to 40 active members. And we mainly did social events and the mission of our club was to meet people from Latin America and also make connections with other students in UCLA, as well as to promote Latin American culture and allow other students that are not from Latin America to experience and share their opinions and their experiences with us. The last year has been pretty hard on us. And for a lot of our members as well, I'd say about 60 to 70% of our members are international students. And as the presentation before said, there's been a very, very negative effect on our mental health and our social aspects. We haven't done any methodical or like scientific data gathering. What we're going to talk about is mostly like individual experiences that our members have had. A lot of them talked about political instability in their home countries, people who had to move to back home to countries in Latin America have experienced political instability in Peru, Bolivia, and Brazil. There have been very significant events and protests, very similar to the ones in the US. And we've heard from people that are like finding themselves following like what happens in the US as well as what happens in their countries, and having a hard time concentrating on academic stuff while this is happening. I'm sure you've talked about the effects of the presidential election uh, last year, and I just wanted to communicate that many of our members had a lot of uh, things going on at the same time uh, politically in their countries. Uh, oh, we also wanted to mention about an incident that happened in July of last year when ICE published a policy about deportation of international students. A lot of our students were in the members were in the US at the time, and they really feared deportation. And many of us felt that the response from UCLA and the Dashes Center, uh, I mean, we know that it was very like unprecedented and out of nowhere, but we felt like it wasn't enough, and like it hasn't been addressed since. Like a lot of people who are still considering going back to the US fear deportation because of the fact that that policy was enacted uh, in such a quick time, and we haven't really heard back from the Dashu Center or from UCLA saying that you know, will be protected against these policies or that anything has changed in that regard. Obviously, there's the environment has changed, like the atmosphere has changed, and there's a new administration and stuff. But I still, many of her members still feel that there is more stuff to be addressed with that regard. And because of this, they are very uncertain about coming back, even though they want to. Finally, I wanted to talk about the overall effect of the pandemic on us as a club. We're a relatively new club, so a lot of our members are graduating or have already graduated. And we've tried recruiting and like reaching out to new students, but we've overall found that people are a lot less engaged in activities. Obviously, we knew that this was going to happen because of, you know, it's really hard to get social interactions with remotely. Um, but we wanted to say that Soul has been very helpful in that they've done a lot of workshops and basically provided resources for us to get think of more ways to interact with potential members and current members. But we wanted to bring to your attention that a lot of like social clubs are struggling to get engagement, and we know that you guys have done like the enormous activities fair online this year, but it's been really hard on us. Like member turnout, the turnout for our online events has been very low, and uh, we are concerned because we think that there are many people, new students from Latin America that are not socially engaged with many people at all at UCLA, and they're missing out. And that is about it. Thank you guys again for having us and listening to us. We just wanted to talk about some issues that we've been facing this year.
Thank you, Vicente. Areli, did you want to share anything too?
Yeah, I mean, he mostly covered it. I actually just joined this year, and I joined kind of as soon as the COVID pandemic was starting, and so I personally didn't even get to experience many of the in-person events that the club had. But I have noticed how it has impacted us. Like you mentioned, the lack of attendance, and especially considering how it's very geared towards international students, I feel like it has been very hard for us to not only get attention, but to just like be there for those who haven't, gotten the opportunity to even be on campus. And so, I mean, he mostly covered like most of the issues, but yeah, we just wanted to voice our concerns and just see if there were any suggestions of how to just get more interaction and such.
Yeah, well, thank you both for coming and presenting on behalf of your organization. I know one thing that immediately comes to my mind is, unfortunately, he had just left too, but have you all had any contact with our international student representative, advocating to like the academic senate and such?
I don't think we have, but it would be very useful to have some communication with them.
Yeah, we can for sure work on connecting you guys after this meeting, of course. I'm so sad that he had to leave. Like, this is literally like perfect in his alley. So, and like you all said, you all may not have the quote unquote data, but these are also really very real student experiences that need to be acknowledged and accounted for. So, yeah, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. And then, of course, Breeze, our academic affairs commissioner, I don't know if you had anything to say about like academic accommodations, academic senate, any of that jazz.
I was actually going to speak up. I'm thinking to my officer reports, but academic senate finally is going to be allowing students to, after like a lot of the discussions we've had, they're going to be allowing student organizations to come in and present should they have any questions, and we're going to be hosting office hours with academic senate so that students can come and express like any issues that they have. So, should you have any questions, I'll drop my email in the chat. And I think it would be a really beneficial idea if you guys would want to come and present, specifically from that like point of view. And meetings are on Friday every other week, so we can set something up so that you guys can hopefully be in an upcoming agenda.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I just wanted to say thank you again.
Awesome. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to add, say, ask?
Yeah, Naomi?
Yeah, go ahead, Zuleika, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I have actually been in contact with a lot of transfer students who are from the Latin American region. So I would definitely encourage you to reach out to like the transfer Facebook page, or you can even contact me. And I can get you in contact with them. I know that a lot of them are looking for community, and I think that this would be a great way for them to connect with other students as well.
Right. Go ahead, sorry. I keep doing
No,
that.
yeah, thank you. How should we? Oh, I just got the chat with the email. Thank you.
Yeah. And then, of course, David, our finance committee chair, is here too. And I'll just like quickly say on his behalf too, if you all are looking for like funding to engage your student organizations when or in this like virtual environment, contingency is always an option too. And I'm sure David can drop his email in the chat or the link to the application or anything like that. As a good way to also help in building community. Yeah, but other than that, I also just wanted to make myself available. I'll drop my email in the chat too, but if you all ever need anything like advocacy related or just support in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out to me too. And I just thank you for being able to share these experiences on behalf of so many different countries, especially in Latin America, and on behalf of so many different students. So thank you, both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Yay. Okay, great. And feel free to stick around or not. It's up to you, really, if you want to listen in on council. Okay. Awesome. Moving on to our officer reports. I'm so sorry. There are still details on mine that I have not finalized. Emily, do you mind going before me?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Give me 1 second. Oh, actually, I have it pulled up already. Cool. So this Thursday, my office, as well as OP, EVP, and SWC, alongside 2 student orgs, Filipinos for Community Health, and Pilot, which is the public health pre-professional organization, are hosting the vaccine panel at 6:30 p.m. Naomi can probably talk about it more in her officer report. And then on Friday, we are hosting another student worker town hall at 6 p.m. Please come through. It'll be super fun. Let's see what else. We are in the midst of planning the True Blue and Raise Awards ceremony for Tuesday, February 16th at 5:30, as well as Campus Safety Alliance this Wednesday at 5 p.m. We're going to be talking about COVID safety. Unfortunately, during the same time will be the post-inaugural healing space by Transformative Justice Committee. I think that's really important because I think ever since the inauguration and like in January, everyone's been like, go, 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 right? And we haven't really had time to sit and reflect. So that is why they're working on that. Cool. In terms of the Rent Relief Awards campaign, we are planning to release the application tomorrow. Please, council, please help me promote this. It'll be closing February 24th, and we're aiming to have decisions out before spring break. If you all have noticed, we are starting an Instagram takeover series for my revamped advocacy partnerships committee, where they're talking about info that's like kind of useful for student organizations. The first one was released today, and it's about how to start a new student organization. So this is going to be a weekly series, and they're also going to be working on coffee chat events for student organizations during week 8. My plan is funding workshop for week 7, and is almost done with the office website. And last but not least, the Campus Safety Alliance is planning an abolition week for week 8. So council members who are into abolition, please keep an eye out on your emails to hopefully serve as a panelist or, give some of your input during that week. Thanks, everyone. Sorry it was kind of disorganized.
No worries, Emily. All great information. Thank you so much for sharing. Super excited about the Abolition Week and what that's going to look like. Like Emily had mentioned, our office is working on the vaccine panel. As Emily had also mentioned, the panel is a collaboration between myself, IVP, EVP, SWC, but we're also really hoping that you all can, show up, and invite your offices and different students to this panel. We have Dr. Peter Katona, who's a professor and an expert in like epidemiology and diseases and infectious diseases. So he's going to be one of our panelists. We have Vice Chancellor Gordon, Interim Director John Ballard of ASH, and then I'm missing one person, slipping my mind right now, but we have a really cool panel lined up, some good information that'll be out there about the panel, about the vaccine and the way that it's being distributed right now. So please share and come. In terms of last week, we also hosted, Aiden and myself, just debriefing about the campus safety symposium and figuring out what our next steps are going to be. I believe we have another debrief meeting tomorrow with some folks from UCOP to talk about the interim, what's going to happen next. We also had our UCLA honorary naming committee talking about like honorary naming, and we're beginning our work with addressing guiding principles for what renaming and also what unnaming will look like too. So that's a process that will be very interesting to see. Other than that, I'm just trying to see if I missed anything. On Friday, we had an important follow-up referendum meeting with the CPO, SIOC, CRC, and we're just discussing what we tried to come out with some tangibles and agree. We've all agreed that the budgets need to be more comprehensive and delivered in a comprehensive manner. But other than that, we are still working through some very, I would say, tense conversations and items to bring forward. So I would say no progress has been made there yet. And then this past week, we also concluded our Coro session series. And I just really want to give like the biggest shout out to all of the council members that, participated and really gave your all. It was really awesome being able to see y'all develop our leadership skills, even though, as Emily noted, I think we've been leaders, but it for sure was nice to see us grow and learn about each other in that way. So super excited for what that will look like next year, and hopefully getting to expand that program with Vice Chancellor Gordon to beyond just USAC members. I know we were all very passionate about that before that started. And Justin, we missed you on that day too. And then lastly, I guess just in terms of the response and recovery task force, our task force has kind of shifted towards acknowledging that fall quarter is aiming to be online in a potentially significant manner, or not online, sorry, in person in a potentially significant manner. So planning for what that will look like, we've shifted gears in a kind of taking like a future planning lens more than just like the recovery that we've been doing, or kind of just like just responding to what's been going on. For those of you all that have been involved in task forces, I think it would be really cool to continue to voice what's going on in those task forces at these council meetings as a way of like acknowledging to the public the conversations that are going on, especially when it comes to like online learning and like the hybrid model that should be implemented next year, given that, there's no way we're going to be able to return, to triples as of right now. So making sure to keep students informed. I'll be reaching out to someone here. I'm inclined to say Sachi, but I'm looking for someone to serve on another subcommittee for future activities and what that will look like for the fall, and how it will look like a reintroducing activities. I'm thinking Alice, Sachi, or Promise, not sure. Yeah, I was thinking, Sachi, because of facility usage. But I'll reach out in regards to that. And then in terms of what's been going on in my office, our office released our Bruin mentorship program, which I'm super excited about. Breeze is also really excited about it too, and I love her excitement. So that's really cool. Our office had also finished I would say, like I mentioned earlier, less comprehensive version of the USAC budget that we've been working very closely with ASUCLA, and are starting an Instagram series in regards to like what does the USAC budget mean and how can you interpret it and whatnot. So super excited about that. Other than that, that's it. Yeah. Okay. Aiden.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Naomi. So I wasn't here last week, so I can go over a few updates from the week prior. We last not this past weekend, but the weekend before, brought over a dozen students to the virtual UC Student Association Students of Color Conference, which was headlined by UCLA alum and now Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber. Was a great space for learning about organizing and solidarity across different campuses and communities, and was a great experience that we were very much grateful to have. Then after that, as Naomi mentioned, the two of us worked together to coordinate strategy for the UC Campus Safety Symposium that was hosted on Tuesday, and then helped facilitate a debrief with student attendees and community members who had participated later that week. Then prior to this past weekend, myself and then the rest of the EVP system-wide had our quarterly meeting with President Drake, where we discussed our priorities for affordability, campus reopening, student advocacy, and campus safety. And then on that subject of campus reopening, we're really excited to our EVP office be partnering with the other offices mentioned for the USAC COVID-19 vaccine town hall this Thursday. And then to start off this week, we were very excited. Our office has been doing a lot of work in gearing up to launch the official UC and UCSA joint campaign over the next 3 years to double the Pell Grant that officially launched on Monday. And we're really excited and impressed by the level of strong involvement and excitement we've gotten so far. I think by my count last night, within 14 hours, we already had 1,500 signatures on the petition, and I have to check to see where we're at now. But yesterday kicked off the campaign, and the next week we'll be moving into our Double the Pell Week of Action, where we're coordinating with 11 other student associations across the nation to do dozens of Hill visits, a briefing on Capitol Hill with President Drake and other partners, and a lot of grassroots advocacy to elevate Double the Pell to the national attention during that next week. And then finally, we also conducted hearings for the Bruin Advocacy Grant. We'll be moving forward with funding advocacy projects from the UC Coalition for Reproductive Justice, BIPOC Arts, UC Survivors and Allies, and looking forward to bringing back the proposal now in a more fully fleshed out form for the Bruin Trailblazers Advocacy Scholarship to council in the coming weeks. But yeah, that concludes my updates.
Yay, thank you, Aiden. Breeze, Academic Affairs Commission.
Awesome, yeah. So there's a few updates, nothing too much. We are going to be, we are finalizing right now the rates for the Bruins, and we should be reaching out to students as soon as we talk to like Long and people from the UCLA to kind of make sure that we have it ready sometime week 7 to hopefully get out those gift cards hopefully by week 10. We are finalizing right now our video for the Student Advocate Board, which I know like Naomi and I have been like working on, so that should be launched soon. We're really excited about that, and hopefully when there is more information on that, hopefully next week we can present that. And let's see what else. So I'm like really excited about this. I know Academic Senate has been like a very closed off space, but we had like many conversations, and I think like last quarter when like student organizations came in was really powerful. So we've had like constant conversations around like CODI and diversity, academic inclusion, and how we can like better listen to students, especially like in spaces of Academic Senate. So we ended up proposing, I know Zuleika helped me out on that as well, and also Walker. So we're really excited that Academic Senate is hopefully going to be, well, it's not hopefully, we're going to be doing like every meeting, hopefully we can invite different student organizations, kind of like when Naomi proposed. We actually got the inspiration from that, like a seat at the table, but kind of a seat at Academic Senate where a student organization can actually come in and voice like specific concerns that they have. And we are also going to be doing office hours with UGC, which is like, I guess, an undergraduate council. Those office hours will probably need monthly. We're looking right now at our first office hours being the 18th of February, but we will like spread information once we know more because we're still working out the logistics of that. But yeah, that's my officer report for this week. And we did counseling quarterlies, and that went well. So yeah.
Yay, awesome, Breeze. Super excited to hear about academic senate seat at the table. That's really cool, especially because it really has only been a space for students who serve on those committees, and that's it. So really just want to acknowledge how big that is. Awesome. Moving on to FSC. There we go.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I just want to give an update on the Pandemic Relief Fund. It was launched yesterday, Monday. And so far, we already have over 600 applications. So I expect there to be I know it's a lot, and I'm excited for it. I sent out to one of my members had a listserv of like 40 different listservs. So I just sent out a mass email to all those listservs. And I think there was an error where I notified you all that a listserv sent it out early saying that it was open. And we received a lot of questions to our email, but we've answered most of those. But again, if anyone's asking any questions, you can always refer them to usacrelief@gmail.com. It's pretty much the same as the bit.ly except for 21. I can send it to I just mass sent it. And so we do have over 600 applications so far. I will be bringing the guidelines of the readers to council next week as a consent item. I encourage you all, if you want to meet with me individually, to schedule a one-on-one with me, and we can talk about any inclusions in the guidelines. I did mention that in the chat. And then additionally, I also am taking this time now to ask for student readers from each of your offices. We are expecting to read a few thousand applications. So we're reading every application at least 3 times, which means if we have 1,000 applications, it'll take 3,000 reads. So we are going to need a big team of readers. So if you could, I really like how Zuleika sent me her readers CC'd in an email, as long as along with their names. So if you want to send me an email with the readers that you recommend, I would say send me 2 to 3 readers, and we can then see how many readers we will need from each office. I think that we may need more than 30 to 35. I also want to make sure that we try to limit the readers so that the reading body doesn't become too large. But again, it'll be entirely dependent upon the applications that we receive by the end of the application. So yeah, that's my update for the relief fund. Please send me those readers. If you can send them by this Friday, that'd be very much appreciated. And then I can work with scheduling a meeting with them for this upcoming week. So yeah, every readers. And then if you have any questions, again, at usacrelief@gmail.com is where we'll be answering any questions.
Thank you, Noe, for those updates. I know Noe probably didn't put any criteria around the readers, but I would encourage them to be, folks who like are just, I would just say knowledgeable about like different circumstances, like they're able to perceive people's circumstances. Noe, did you want to say something about that? I don't think I'm saying this right.
Yeah, no, I would piggyback off what you were saying in choosing readers that have experience, are a high need student, whether they're a low income student, low SES student, they're a student of color. Really, experiences in reading as well will also be very helpful, but not required. So if you do have funding bodies in your offices, pulling readers from those that have the availability to read would be very helpful. Just to reiterate the reading timeline as well, we will be hoping to read from week 9 to the end of week 1 spring quarter. So hopefully your readers will have that time to read. If there's an estimate of the time commitment for readers, I think we're trying to cap it at 200 to 250 applications per reader. And so it'll really be dependent on how long it takes. I think I'm leaning towards 200, but it will just take, it will depend on how many applications we receive at the end of the application. So if we've received over 600 within the first day and a half or 2 days, we will probably be receiving a lot of applications, which will require a big team of readers. And I also don't want to overburden the readers. That was a problem last year where the readers kind of had to read a lot of applications, and it was a big burnout. But again, if we face that again, if we receive entirely too many applications, we will push the readings to an additional week. So they'll have from week 9 to week 2 of spring quarter. That's a possible delay, but really right now we're expecting week 9 to week 1 of spring quarter.
Right. Thank you, Noe. Yeah, I wouldn't want to burden our folks either, but definitely understand the need to keep the team small. Breeze?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a brief question because I know, like, for example, the folks that in my office that are just finishing books for brewing, they're a little tired too, and I understand that, right? Because like they each read a lot of applications, especially because it was a much smaller team, since like we couldn't, have the same student supply. But I was just wondering, like, do you know like about how many applications they will each going to be reading? Just because I want to prepare my team, and I know this course is being very difficult on many students, so just so I can put it out there for them.
Yeah, so I think for right now, we're planning to do 200 applications. Um, it really will, again, depend on the amount of applications we have and how council wants to deliberate the applications. Because again, if I'm thinking of our process last year, let's say in the first round that we had the application open, we received 2,000 applications. We received more than that, but just to keep it simple. And if every application is read by 3 independent readers, that's 6,000 reads of the applications in total. So even if we do 200 applications per reader, that would still require a team of 30 readers. So if we want to maybe lower it to 2 readers per application, then that could help decrease how many applications each reader has to read. And again, I think in giving the long break time, I know it will be difficult for students to read during week 10 and finals week, and then probably spring break, they may not want to read either. And so that's why we're doing it to week 1 of spring quarter to give them an additional week. But again, I think if we receive a really large amount of applications, then I definitely will push it back to week 2. So they'll have pretty much 5 or 6 weeks in total to read the applications, which I think 3 of those weeks will be very difficult to read. But I do think week 9 is a little bit more manageable to read applications compared to week 10 and finals week. Again, entirely dependent upon the student's workload, but just inform your readers of that time commitment. And if anything, we can, again, lower the reads for 2 readers per application. I just think the 3 readers per application made it diverse enough so that we could save enough applications were we to receive a second round of funding. So that's also why we do 3 reads, is if the applications who receive 3 yeses from the readers or 3 strongs from the readers will be selected for the first round of funding. And then if we were to receive additional funding, we already have the 2 out of 3s already ready. And then we don't have to open up the application again and delay students receiving their funds any further.
Okay, thank you so much, Nara. Yeah, I agree with the process. Like, I trust you. So I'll just have to inform my team that. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, I think I'd encourage you to see if your like peers are interested, and then we can try to work and be flexible. We really do need the readers. And so if we need to lower the amount of applications each reader reads, then I'm 100% prepared to do that. And I think it's going to just be, we'll be deciding as we go. So I can't even give a specific number of readers right now, because I just don't know how many applications we will end up receiving. So again, I'm totally flexible, and I think we'll see as we go. And hopefully by the next week and a half, we'll have a better number. Christina?
Sorry, Rose, did you say Christina?
Yeah, did you have a question?
Oh, yes. Okay, I'm sorry. This is maybe something also that is going to be really hard to put an estimate on, but do you have an idea, maybe, like, I know you said around 200 to 250 applications, but do you have an idea for maybe how long those applications might take to read? I'm contacting people now and I want to be able to, like, kind of, like, I don't know, is it like they're like 5 minutes each or like 15 minutes each? Like, what, when contacting people, like how many hours, I guess, would you say?
Well, I would ask Justin. I know Justin was a reader last year. I would say also take his response with a grain of salt, because they did read a lot more applications, because we hadn't anticipated the amount of applications that we would receive. And I think another factor in this reading that will be different is that we have a limited amount of funding for the first round. So then the amount of applicants that are selected per pool will be smaller. So it'll be the same amount of applications that you have to read, but the selection process will be a smaller amount of recipients, which should help decrease the amount of time rather than having to select more applicants. That's just something that I heard from the readers from my office. So yeah, Justin, if you want to speak on it on your behalf, and then I'll also ask my members to see how long it took them to read, and I'll send that to you all.
Yeah,
they haven't reached out, Naomi, so I'm not sure yet. I think we had mentioned that they might be coming to council, so I'm not sure if I should reach out to them or if they're going to be coming soon.
yeah. I believe, I think the amount that I read last time was on the amount of like 250 to 300 applications. So, and that took several hours. Yeah, that took a good amount of time that week. It was it was a while ago, so I don't remember exactly how long it took me, but I think definitely with more readers, I think it wouldn't be too much. I would advocate for an amount of time on like the order of like 5 hours or something like that. Like maybe 100 applications or something like that would take like 5 to 7 hours more like, and that would be a bit more manageable for each reader. Yeah.
Thank you, Justin. And that's also why I did want to give sufficient time for the readers. So again, if it turns out that we need a larger team of readers, we can do it. But I think me and my office, when we were discussing the application, we're kind of off put of having the idea of 50 to 55 readers. I feel like that's a very large amount of readers, and it becomes a lot more difficult to manage and ensure that kind of everything is being done correctly and ensuring it, because it was a lot easier last year to go through and manage the application and the tabs that the readers were using. And I think if we do 50, it'll be a lot more difficult to coordinate a time to meet for the training. It'll be difficult to ensure that every single reader is doing their readings in the amount of time. And so again, if we need to then extend it an additional week to week 3, I'm definitely prepared to do that. I think the reading aspect of it, because of the amount of applications we receive, will be very important. So again, I just encourage you for right now to encourage your members, if they're interested, to at least let you know, and you can kind of have them on deck. And then if we do need more or less readers, you can then decide upon the top 3 or 4 that you have to select from your office. So I hope that gives guidance. And again, I would tell, again, I think the interest is the main thing, and then we just work around that.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Noe. Be sure everyone to send your people, your readers to Noe, so that way they can start informing them of the process. Okay. Again, just want to thank Noe for all the work that he's done to help put this together and advocating very strongly for it. So we appreciate you so much. We appreciate all the readers that are going to embark on this journey, because it is a journey. Those applications are very hard to read. So thanks again. Awesome. Moving on to admin reports. Jessica?
No updates for me.
Awesome. Dr. Geller, if she's here? Oh, she is here.
I'm still here. Really don't have anything particular. I'll pass to Josh.
Hi, friends. I do have a little bit of a quick overview. I wanted to talk, as we move into USAC elections, kind of what your role as council will be. So Naomi, can I have like 3 to 4 minutes just to quickly go over? Okay, I promise I'll be quick. The expectation that kind of we have and that you should have for yourself is really the council does need to remain neutral. when it comes to USAC elections. And so normally Dr. Geller or myself goes over this with council each year. So this is the time of the year. So as questions come up, we want to make sure that we get them. So I'm just going to go through a few things, and if there are questions, if there's time, with Naomi's permission, we will hear them. Council, we do need you to remain neutral. So what does that mean? That means council cannot advocate for any particular candidate for any race, and must follow the campaign rules by the election board. If you are running, you cannot use your position or council to support your individual run. In an election season, council cannot wear shirts or buttons supporting a candidate during council meetings or any official USAC program or meeting during the council season. You really do need to remain neutral. Council cannot use your official email to promote or endorse candidates. So you've got your old USAC email and your new USAC email, both apply to this this policy. And that includes if you are a candidate yourself, you cannot use your individual office to push your candidacy. As for budgets and your individual offices, your offices cannot endorse or pay for anybody's campaign, including your own. So just to be super clear, USAC funds cannot be used for anything that's on the ballot. That includes referenda and council, positions running for council. Now, what USAC can do is educate. You can educate about the people on the ballots. You can also educate about the referenda. But council cannot say vote for this referenda, or don't vote for this referenda, or vote for this person, or don't vote for this person. So we really want to make sure that you are not taking an individual role in the sense of your position or with your finances. This policy will also apply to council social media. Nothing from the official USAC councils can be posted to promote or endorse a council member running or a referenda. Now, what you can do is educate, particularly around referenda, okay? You can educate around referenda. And if referenda is on the ballot, that means USAC clearly endorses it because you allowed it to go on the ballot. But you cannot particularly say, vote for this. Finally, when it comes to your personal social media, you are allowed to post what you please on your personal social media as long as it follows the election board rules. So again, if you are running as a candidate, please just make sure you truly understand what these are. We don't want you to have to go to JBoard or have to have anything happen to you all using your office or office money to promote your individual run. Also, we want to make sure the same thing, that if you are not running, your office does not endorse anybody through the official venues. That is kind of what I wanted to go over. Naomi, Dr. Geller, any additional pieces that you want to put in, or questions, if that's okay, Naomi?
Yeah, I had one quick question. I think, well, first, Dr. Geller, do you have anything that you wanted to add?
I think Josh did a pretty good job covering it. I mean, essentially, it's same as it would be in a regular non-USAC election. You don't endorse a candidate, but you can educate your constituents on issues around ballot measures other than candidates. And of course, you can always do get out the vote campaigns.
Right. Thank you.
And I think both of us are available to answer questions if you have questions.
Okay. My quick question was, I thought if council, or I know through the endorsement process too, council offices could officially vote to endorse referendum, and that's how I just looked at several pages last year that had supported both GCGP and CUB.
So that is entirely dependent on what the election board comes up with for the endorsement process.
Got it.
If their endorsement process allows it, then absolutely, but you have to do it following their endorsement process, whatever that may be.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? Sachi?
Yeah, I think I know the answer to this. I think y'all made it clear, but like I just want to be 110% clear on this. We can personally, like as an individual, me, Sachi Cooper, you know, say what we want about who we support. But I can't hop on the fact social media, like take over and then like, you know, through that capacity say it. I guess the distinction that I do want to clarify is like, you know, what if I say, and people know in my personal life that I am the facilities commissioner. So if on my personal account, I say, hello, I have led this office for the past year, here's my thoughts, like what is that kind of line there?
I think the line is well, there's a couple. So the first, you will all have the right as individual students to take positions. You do that using your personal student email or social media, not your office email or social media. Where the line gets, I'm going to say gray, is what you just said. The using your personal, but saying I am the facilities commissioner, or you know, fill in the blank of whatever office you're in, and because of that, you're suggesting that your office then is the role you're endorsing with. You may be that officer, people may know that you are, but it's important that you're endorsing not as the facilities commissioner, you're endorsing as a student. Josh, I see you nodding. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, it just comes down to using your positional power to say that you're endorsing. So you, Sachi, can absolutely say, I support Deb Geller for this role. You cannot say, as current facilities, I am endorsing Deb Geller for that role. And it's a very gray difference. But it's again using the power behind your position versus you as an individual.
And just to follow up on that, let's say like Joe Bruin is running for FAC, and Joe Bruin, let's say like I personally do support Joe Bruin, and then Joe Bruin comes in and posts on Joe Bruin for USAC Instagram, like, you know, I have the support of the current facilities commissioner. What's that line?
I'm sorry. So, go ahead, Dr. Geller.
I think that's a question for the election board chair.
Cool. I will direct it to Alfred then.
Our main role is we want you to remain as neutral as possible in your position. If there's question around that, definitely come to us. But again, election board rules set out by your election chair, you also have to apply those. Definitely come into play as well. So questions about those pieces, yeah, we would defer to Alfred as well.
Yeah, I wanted to hop in here and say too, especially within this conversation, I think the point of it is also to point out that sometimes we're talking about like the calendar or issues that arise in elections, and it's natural that people's biases will come out because we are human beings, but to remember that you are elected officials too, and to not allow those biases to overshadow or to cloud your judgment. And if you do have a, what do you call it? What is it? Conflict of interest, knowing when to just not be part of the conversation, knowing when to step back and acknowledge that conflict of interest.
That's a great point. And when it comes to conflict of interest, the time when anyone would begin to have a conflict is after the candidate packets are returned. Anyone who's currently on council who may decide to run for office next year then needs to recuse themselves from any votes on the election, because as a candidate, you will then have a conflict. You are not conflicted just because someone you know, someone in your office happens to be running for something. Being knowledgeable on a topic does not create a conflict of interest. Being a candidate in the election would create a conflict.
Thank you, Dr. Geller. Christina?
Hi, sorry, I also got a little bit lost in the, maybe this is an e-board question too, but as the Student Wellness Commission, can we, at the time when organizations are doing endorsements, can we endorse a candidate for the Student Wellness Commission?
That's
Like, vote on it?
entirely driven by the election board's election process. If they have an endorsement process that allows organizations or offices to endorse, then yes, but do it following their endorsement rules.
Cool. Any more questions? Okay, well, if not, Josh, thank you so much for that update, a very important message, and Dr. Geller as well.
I'm going to take 30 more seconds, and just as election season is coming, please, everyone, remember, be kind to yourselves, get sleep. Don't let elections become your entire life. You are still students and humans, and it's been a rough year for everyone. So taking care of your wellness is so important.
Thank you, Dr. Geller. I think we all needed to hear that in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah. Okay, great. Moving on. Alfred says elections has already become his life. I feel terrible for him. Fernando. Oh, thank you, Fernando. The feeling is mutual. Okay. Patty?
Hi, everyone. Just a quick announcement. ASUCLA is working to expand a quarterly newsletter for all the entities of ASUCLA. So that includes USAC, GSA, student media, and the student-run enterprises. So we're just really excited to showcase the amazing work that you all have been working on this year. So you may receive a reach out, or if there's anything that you would like to highlight, please feel free to send our way. And I'll be working with my marketing team to help gather that information. And then at the end of the year, we'll be including some of these highlights in our annual report and this is externally showcases all the work that you all do. So I just wanted to give a quick heads up to if you see that coming your way.
Awesome. Thank you, Patty. Okay. That concludes our reports for tonight. I don't see George here, so yeah, he's not here. Okay. Moving on to old business, we have the TSR bylaw change. Zuleika.
Hi, everyone. So I went ahead and added those corrections to the bylaws. Oh, wrong one. Wait, can y'all see the bylaw form? Okay, cool. Yeah, so I went ahead and added the necessary changes that Dr. Geller suggested, just so that it's, again, consistent throughout. So I just want to go through it really quickly. So under the appointments section for the president, we added this change that the Student Fee Advisory Committee would be, instead of appointing 2 appointments, they will only be appointing 1. It reflects the same as the Student Health Advisory Committee. And then we added this extra language under that same appointment section, again, for consistency. And then we also put that the appointment will be stipended. And then again, we added it under my section under the transfer student representative as an additional section for consistency so that the new TSR, whoever they may be, they understand their role and that they are supposed to appoint. So that's that. Are there any questions? Anything you want me to clarify?
Never mind. Sorry, I was muted. I saw that. I just wanted to see if mine also says stipended, but it does.
Mhm.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? I just wanted to say that I supported this amendment. I mean, it seems as though like an appointment is being taken away from me, but I don't see it that way because one, I already have too many. And also it just makes sense to, have transfers represented on committees that also impact them too, especially a committee like SFAC, which has not been a very, space that's always inclusive of transfers, just because of like the commitments that's needed. It needed a 2-year commitment in the past, and that is obviously not that conducive to transfer students. So just want to give a big shout out to Zuleika for the long time coming that this has been in making this change. So you're awesome.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, oh, go ahead, Noe.
Does it say, I didn't see it, but does it say that the 1-year appointment has to be a transfer student?
No, it does
Or
not.
is it going to be up to the TSR?
It's up to the TSR. I want the TSR to make the appropriate appointment, regardless if it is a transfer student. I mean, obviously, we might want transfer students, but I want the student to be very well aware of transfer issues. And throughout this process, we've learned that even though they're not a transfer, there are still a lot of students who understand and advocate for transfer issues. So we did not put that the student has to be a transfer student.
Okay, thank you. Just curious.
Anyone else? Okay, if not, a motion.
I motion to approve the TSR bylaw change.
Second.
Emily motions, Noe seconds. All in favor? Okay. Awesome. By a unanimous vote of 10 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and the bylaw change has been approved. Thank you so much, Zuleika. Yay, okay, there's chats going crazy. Woo. Okay, moving on to new business. We have the USA election. Alfred, do you mind if we do the election code changes first, since the social media guidelines are just being presented?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to do that first. And I don't know, Alfred, if we want to pass it off to Ellen first, or do you want me to kind of just explain the changes that we talked about?
I think you can first explain the changes that we talked about, and then Ellen can talk a little more about it from as the Chief Justice, and then I can take it on from there.
Okay, beautiful. Do you mind sharing them?
Yes.
For everyone to see.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. So Alfred and I, over the past weekend, had interesting and very good conversations about just elections, the calendar itself. And there has been some talk that, comes from both sides. I think there's a need to clarify the extent to which council has jurisdiction and authority over the elections calendar, and also to acknowledge that in certain cases, council overseeing the process and having a final vote on the election calendar is an important aspect of our government, but also can infringe on the free and fair elections that sometimes that occur, and that has happened in the past. While acknowledging that in the past, it's also been the case that council has needed to have jurisdiction over that calendar for issues related to past election board chairs and whatnot. So Alfred and I really took the time to share a dialogue, to hear each other on these very real concerns, and really thought about how can we address this going forward. So if you look at the language that's in front of you all, what we are essentially proposing, and I'll let you guys read the logistics, but what we are essentially proposing is that should the election board chair release the calendar prior to week 5 of Tuesday of winter quarter, the chair will need to present the election calendar to council for approval. Any subsequent amendment of the election calendar prior to week 5 shall require USAC's approval through a special presentation. And then once Tuesday of week 5 is over, the chair has the authority to approve the calendar without council's approval. However, the chair shall also do so in cooperation with the council by giving a special presentation to the council in the immediate week following the release of the calendar. So essentially what that means is, let's say Tuesday week 5 happens, the calendar is not voted on. The chair can choose to release the calendar Wednesday, week 5, but will have to present the calendar to the council by Tuesday of week 6. And really what that gets at is it gives USAC enough room to weigh in seriously on the election calendar before it's released, but it also gives us the chance to, or it gives election board the chance to, if council for whatever reason is not motivated by the correct things and whatnot, they can choose to release the calendar or not have to wait for USAC's approval, which is we meet once a week on Tuesdays, and we're not the most accessible bunch of people. So it's really recognizing that the election board also has a duty to carry out tasks beyond our USAC timeline. That is why we vested the powers in them to do such a thing. So that's kind of what I wanted to say at first. I wanted to note, we also spent time to talk to previous council members of different years who were able to see what it was like when there were, I would say, special years with chairs who weren't always the most cooperative or easy to work with. And I would say most of them agreed that this is a fair way, getting at, Alfred's concerns, but also getting at the concerns that I bring up too. And if you all have questions about like what that means and what that looks like, I can explain it a little further, but I tried to make it general because it's also like history too. So yeah, Ellen, did you want to add anything about the jurisdiction in particular?
Yes, I think Alfred just wanted me to come in and talk about what the language of the ruling documents say about council's power over the election calendar and like ballot presentation. And so basically kind of just what I found was that in the election code, all it says is that eBoard has to present it to council. It doesn't really say anything about or have any language that includes like needing council's approval or even needing council to vote on the matter. And then in the Constitution, it says that eBoard is responsible for impartial administration of all elections. And then the only restraint that it puts is in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution and bylaws. And the rest of that section then goes on to list some of those restrictions, such as eBoard chair needing to be approved by council, but none of those provisions explicitly state anything about council voting on election calendar or on like ballot presentation or anything like that. So that's kind of just what I had to say on that matter. And of course, I'm like, feel free to ask any questions if you have any.
Yeah. I'd also wanted to note too, thank you, Ellen, for that. Alfred and I talked about this issue too, given that it's not explicitly stated. But one thing that we had found last week and kind of came to a mutual agreement over was that our necessary and proper clause does give us the ability to make decisions that are necessary to and proper to the carrying out of the association. So that was where we both mutually agreed that there seemed to be some way to make claims, but again, very much so agreeing that there needs to be a balance and a check of power in that regard. Alfred, did you want to add anything before we open it up to questions?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so even though there is, just wanted to reiterate, even though there is no explicit authority, there is, I did agree with Naomi that council does have an interest in taking care of the association and making sure that it works well. And, but however, just like to add on to Naomi and Ellen, it is important that the elections board is independent in the election cycle when it matters. So this means that it is very important that we, as the third party independent administrator of elections, can have the authority to do what we need to do when it matters. But of course, there needs to be certain limitations to elections board chair's powers to basically, run free and do whatever they want with the calendar. That is something that we do not want, and something that I'm also against. I don't want chairs just, unilaterally controlling the election calendar to the point that they can release applications in spring, to the point that they can allow campaigning then, and there's no check on that authority. So it's just that contrast that is very important that me and Naomi were talking about, because as much as eBoard needs the independence to do what it needs to do when it matters, it's also important that council can provide an important check on elections board when it doesn't matter. But yeah, like with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Feel free to direct them towards me, Naomi, or Ellen.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so yeah, we hope you all like agree, or if you have any questions with the changes, now's the time to ask them. We'll start with Sachi and then go straight into Zuleika.
I just realized that my hand was like an old hand, so I don't have a question.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, Zuleika.
Yeah, my only question is, what if council were to ask the eBoard chair to present before week 5? Can the eBoard chair decline, or can they like still discuss the calendar without releasing it before week 5?
I think that often would probably depend on the chair and how they work with how their relationship and how they work with council, because like just to put it into perspective, right? The chair may not be ready with the calendar a little bit early. So like me, I was I was ready with the calendar when it came, but then like I definitely wasn't ready on week 4. So I guess like if an arrangement is made with council, between council and elections board chair, then the elections board chair should be able to come and give a discussion presentation on how the calendar is going to look like.
Without releasing it, right?
without releasing it, just to talk about council's and council's concerns and what they, then just to make sure that they're addressed. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that the e-board chair still had like that autonomy, even though council is asking them to come in and like present the calendar. Thank you.
Oh yeah, of course. But yeah, like council cannot be like, hey, e-board chair, you come in right now at week 4 and you give that presentation. No.
Right. That's also why the language is kind of written to say like, should the e-board chair choose to do this, then this is what will happen. Should blah blah blah. If that makes sense. Any other thoughts on this particular part? I know Alfred had other changes that I didn't necessarily help write. So. Okay. Okay. Alfred, do you want to present the other ones?
Yes, of course. I think before I present the other ones, I just want to thank Ellen for coming here. And Ellen, like if you have, I know that you're probably busy with a lot of other stuff, so just wanted to call you here to talk a little bit about that. And you are good to go if you want to.
Yeah, of course. It was good talking to you guys.
Thanks, Ellen.
Thank you, Ellen. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So before that calendar, just like a little bit of briefing over the top ones. I decided to change that the elections board must present all changes before what? No, before I wrote it as before the candidate orientation meeting. I thought I changed this. Okay. But as I was saying, I decided to change like the timeline for election code changes and also for social media and technological guidelines changes until the candidate orientation meeting. So this means that there is enough latitude for the elections board to make some changes to the election code when it is necessary, and so that it can be done in a time where it's reasonable, so that if the changes are made, then this means that all the candidates will be aware of the change by the candidate orientation meeting. And I think this is, I would strongly advocate for this change, just because there are times when, like the code has to be changed. There are times when the social media guidelines can be changed, and it has happened in the last year too. So I was thinking that this is very important that we codify it and allow that flexibility as long as candidates are aware in the candidate orientation meeting. That's the first thing. Okay. So, and apart from that, this is the same thing that I also included for the social media guidelines. And this one, this one is pretty important. So, I have been getting, this is an unprecedented election year. Everything is online, and because everything is online, everything is much more visible. And because everything is much more visible, we have been getting a lot of reports about campaigning and whether it's not allowed, and students, candidates essentially trying to tell the elections, like prospective candidates trying to tell the elections board that there is no explicit rule saying campaigning cannot be done before we allow it. So in that interest, and to make sure that everything is fair, because campaigning can only begin when one is a certified USAC candidate, and that means that you cannot start advocating for yourself, start talking about your platforms, or do self-promotion before this period. And I just wanted this, I think this change is pretty important to make, because this includes very explicit language that prevents people from campaigning until the elections board chair allows it to. And this time that the elections board chair allows it to is tied with the election calendar. So everything ties very well into this, and make sure that, people are held accountable, and to make sure that people cannot come tell the elections board that and start arguing over a lot that there's nothing that says about campaigning not being able to be done before we allow it to do so. So this change is just the gist of it. And what this change will, what this electoral code amendment will also do is it's going to establish pre-campaigning conduct guidelines that governs behavior that is acceptable and not acceptable. So basically, people who are in this period looking for signature collection, recruiting candidates, collecting any other signatures, they have to follow this pre-campaigning guidelines and make sure that they're not violating it, because even though campaigning is not allowed, there are other actions that is in the gray area, and that is something that we did allow. So I just want to make it very clear in the pre-campaigning conduct guidelines on what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So it's just to make sure that students follow the rules, and if they are found in violation of these rules, they are subject to sanctions by the elections board, whether it's suspension of campaigning, suspended disqualification, or other suspended sanctions, or just simply refusal by the elections board to certify a student's candidacy for USAC elections upon severe infractions of the elections code. So it just includes like that no campaigning is allowed, and it includes appropriate penalties and sanctions when they do cross that line too much. But yeah, like this is the gist. That is the gist of this this amendment. Yes, Ashi?
Yeah, thanks so much for bringing this. I just wanted to ask, like, for potential candidates who have engaged in kind of conduct already this year, I guess for all of the actions taken pre this E-code change, will there be any kind of penalty or infraction? I understand that, like, there's an argument to be made about the fact that it wasn't very explicitly within the guidelines, although in my personal opinion, it was a quite clear reference. But, you know, I think that the detriment to elections as a whole is that these candidates have received extra time to get their name out to the student body that other candidates didn't have access to because they were following the rules. So I was just wondering kind of how e-board is going to handle, you know, the situations that have already arisen before this code has been presented.
Okay, of course. So eBoard has already released guidelines prior to this period. So eBoard actually released the guidelines about a week ago that that basically governs that basically includes this document. So after the release of that document that we took out, we actually released that document like about 4 days ago. After the release of that document, then everyone is subject to regulation and sanctions, because there is I do understand that people did get an unfair advantage in some point in some manner, and they started a little bit early. But I do take the responsibility, and the elections board does take the responsibility, that we did not have guidelines that specifically said that people cannot campaign. And because of this, because we didn't have guidelines that were talking about this, people who were confused with elections and confused with USAC did not know. And we, as like the elections board executive committee, and also the unanimity of the investigations committee, decided that it is not fair for us to sanction people when we're not being clear about the rules in the first place. And it's only fair after we make the rules clear. So anything after Friday, anything that happens after Friday last week is fair game. Everything, they're all subject to regulation. They're all subject to campaign rules. They're all subject to the regulations that we put that. But before that, because the regulations were not there, we did not think that it would be fair to basically uh, issue penalties for ambiguity in the in campaign regulations, because and just like, you know, like this has never happened before in history. Like we have never gotten complaints like that, people campaigning in winter quarter. So I do admit the elections board was a little bit unprepared for this. We did not expect people to just start going out there and just going and just trying to campaign. So definitely this was something that we didn't expect, but now that like it has been there since last Friday, everything from last Friday applies.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Sachi, if you don't mind, I mean, I think it hasn't happened in the past because there's been an expectation that it like shouldn't happen and that you would be penalized if it did happen. I don't know like where that expectation came from. I'm sure there's probably language somewhere. But I'd want to second Sachi that it's just kind of ridiculous that someone could think that there was some kind of loophole to campaign right now. That makes no sense. But it is 2021. So, Sachi, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I did just want to say too that like I 100% like understand you and your team's train of thought on this and like respect your decision, but I mean I do think that there's something to be said about a potential candidate who like also won't respect what eBoard is telling them, even if it's not in the guidelines yet. And even especially considering that this is something that has been, as Naomi said, like kind of well established kind of rule that we respect within campaigning. That being said, like I get that I understand, you know, the justification that it wasn't explicit in the guidelines. However, I would personally advocate that pre-campaigning be pre-campaigning that was pre-Friday, so pre you all releasing. Sorry, that was really convoluted. But before you all released this kind of official instruction, even the like quote unquote pre-campaigning that happened before that date, I would advocate that that is included in future rulings on violations. Like let's say you're ruling on consistent violations of pre-campaigning. If a person continues to pre-campaign, but like you're like, I would advocate that you include information about pre-campaigning from before the release of this guideline, because I think that consistent behavior is something that should be taken into account. And again, the more of this behavior that there is, the more detrimental that it is to other candidates in the field.
I definitely like do understand your concerns and your advocacy for this. So we will I'll definitely make sure to let the executive committee and the investigations know about this. But then like yeah, for sure, I do get what you're saying, because it does put people at a disadvantage. But just you know like since we're also how do I put this, since we're also trying to since there's like I feel like there's a bunch of new people, new outsiders to USAC, and then what they're normally familiar with, that they're trying to come into USAC and trying to campaign. They're probably they're not too familiar on the rules and who to refer to, like whose authority is explicit. So for that, that's also like another consideration. But I do definitely understand your concerns, and I will tell the rest of my team that about your concerns.
This is my last thing, and then I promise I will be quiet. I mean like I 100% get that, and I really respect y'all's mission to get more people involved in elections. But you know, I like, let's say that this was a current council member that did this. I'm like hesitant to think that there would be a similar kind of leniency. And so as much as I appreciate, you know, reaching out to people that aren't familiar with the USAC space, like I think that if someone is serious about running for an office, as serious as all 15 of the offices here, they should seriously take into consideration the rules and regulations around free and fair campaigning. And so I would not advocate for, I guess, giving preferential treatment to quote unquote like new people to the USAC space, because then that puts, you know, people currently in the space at somewhat of a disadvantage. It's unfair to those people. But yeah, I will be quiet now.
Yeah, of course, Sashi. It's I definitely to get you, and I will promise council that there's not going to be any sort of like, oh, this person's more familiar with USAC and therefore I'm not going to be as lenient, and this person is not as familiar with USAC, so I'm going to be more lenient. No, everyone is going to be treated as the same thing. I was just like saying that we thought that it was also our fault that we weren't being clear about this, but but definitely no one is going to have preferential treatment, because that is directly against the responsibilities and the role that we have as the elections board to be independent and neutral. So for sure, I do get what you were saying, and I will tell my team about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sachi, for raising those concerns with Alfred, and hopefully Alfred can take that back to the team and let us know what comes of that. We would love to hear updates. Other than that, does anyone have any opposition to these changes? Because if not, if we could take it into a vote soon, that'd be awesome. Maybe like within the next minute.
Also, just like to add on to it, I can have Ira come here next week to talk a little more about this, and just about like all the concerns that's expressed by council. Ira, we have been getting an unprecedented number of complaints in the pre-campaigning season, so I think Ira can also speak more about this and talk about the concerns that's expressed by council. But yeah, like I'll pass it on to council.
That'd be awesome. Emily?
Yeah, I just had one edit / question. I know in C21, it says any subsequent amendment of the election calendar prior to week 5 Tuesday of winter. Oh no, go back up.
Where?
That see?
Where is it, Emily?
See?
Like the
little eyes. 1.
This one? 1.
Little eyes. 2.
Okay, 1. Okay.
1. Yes. So the last sentence says that it requires USAC approval through a special presentation. And I wanted to ask you to cut. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Perfect.
Oh. Beautiful.
All right. I motion to approve the election code final changes.
I second.
Emily motions, Zuleika seconds. All in favor? Okay, by a unanimous vote of 9 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and the election code changes are approved for tonight. Moving on to the social media guidelines. Alfred?
Yes. So basically council, just let me give like a quick recap just to refresh everyone's memory from the emails that I sent. So the main changes that is from last year is one, we scratched the hashtags. We are not requiring campaign supporters to do hashtags. We don't think that's conducive to a campaign season with everyone just trying to make sure people do hashtags. So we are only requiring hashtags for senior campaign staff, and the only way that senior campaign staff are identified is through the form that election board provides. So the team leaders, such as like the director of this, the director of that, these are senior team members that has to register themselves with the elections board, and only these people will be required to do the hashtags, and only the candidate. But apart from that, no one else is required to do the hashtags. However, we did include disclaimers, but the disclaimers are not. Yes, did someone talk? Okay. But with that being said, we did decide to keep the disclaimers because last year we did not see that as an issue. That wasn't we didn't get almost any complaint about disclaimers. And the reason why I would really advocate for disclaimers to still be there is because students need to know about elections, and the only way that they can get truly neutral information about elections and what the platforms are of candidates, what the ballot propositions are, is if they visit the elections board platforms. So that we decided to keep. Apart from that, we also added some email approval guidelines just to be more explicit with the email approvals. If there are any graphics and emails, we also added that to the approval process. And then the last thing is that we added accessibility measures. So this is to make sure that students with disabilities are not left out of the election cycle. Candidates who do graphics, who do have these images or have videos we're just requiring them to include simple captions and also just an image description or alternative text. So this is pretty simple for them to do. It shouldn't be too difficult. And because of the massive popularity, the massive, I guess, boom of online technology and during the COVID pandemic, this is definitely like they can definitely find some software about accessibility. It shouldn't be too hard for them. So definitely this is an important change. I really thank FAC, Sashi and Quinn for really pushing me for this. So definitely is a very good change. And yeah, apart from that, it doesn't have anything. It doesn't have any different change anymore, because this is everything else is the same from last year except these main things, because this is a pretty detailed document that already has a lot of the regulations that we agreed with. So we decided not to change it, except for the very controversial ones from last year. And also, like with the hashtags being scrapped, we're going to probably reduce the number of complaints by like 75%. So that's also like a pretty big bonus for our team as well. So does anyone have any questions about this? Yes, Uleka.
My only question, Alfred, is how would candidates know who the senior campaign leaders are? Just in case, I mean, you know that this is probably going to happen, but in case they report them, like how would they know who senior leadership is, like let's say in their opponent's campaign?
We'll post that. That's going to be public. And if they do make a complaint about a non-senior campaign agent, then we're just going to dismiss the case.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Sachi?
Yeah, Zuleika's question just made me think of one. So I guess there's gonna be a public list of, senior campaign agents, but let's say like I request to follow Joe Bruin, senior campaign agent, but they deny my request because they know I'm like an opposing candidate or whatever. How will a situation like that be dealt with? Because in that case, like I wouldn't be able to see if a senior campaign agent is committing a violation or not.
You're talking about, I mean, are you talking about, like, for example, like Instagram, when they follow it or not? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like let's say like I was trying to follow another campaign's senior campaign agent and they wouldn't let me.
I guess then in that case, if in the campaign season, isn't everyone just trying to get followers, and at that point, and I feel like that is more of like a fringe, a little bit more of a fringe case, because I'm sure that people are going to find ways to get into the senior campaign agents following and check it out. And if the senior campaign agent is always trying to, like, how do I say, limit the amount of people that's following their account, then they're also going to lose a lot of campaign power and a lot of following power. It's more likely that their account is going to be public. So I don't anticipate that to be a huge problem.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking like, let's say like they block me, but I think this is, I agree with you. It's kind of a fringe situation. I don't think it needs to be in the guidelines yet necessarily. I think as long as eBoard will like accept a complaint, for something like that, in which like campaign agents from another campaign are blocked from seeing the actions of another campaign's campaign agents, I think that would be fine.
Wait, Sashi, can you repeat that thing again?
Yeah, sorry, I said campaign 500 times. I think I agree with you that it is a fringe situation and that can be determined on a case-by-case basis. But as long as eBoard is comfortable accepting complaints that have to do with, let's say, another campaign blocking another campaign from viewing their actions on social media. Like campaign A blocks campaign agent from campaign B as long as eBoard would accept the complaint, I'm not saying like how you would rule on it, but would accept the complaint as being, you know, a way to block other people from seeing if they're abiding by the guidelines or not, then I think that it's fine.
Okay. Yeah, of course. I'm pretty sure Ira's gonna accept it. I don't think I think Ira accepts almost all complaints unless it's really frivolous. And yeah, so like don't worry, like when it does come, like I'm pretty sure that we're gonna accept it.
Right. Alfred,
Yes.
does Slack also fall under like group chats and text messages?
Slack falls under group chats, yes.
Oh, okay. Is that stated somewhere? I don't know if I saw it.
Um
I'm just thinking of all. Okay, cool. For group, okay, yeah. Just wanted to check. People try to find any way to go through this.
People really do try to find loopholes, don't they?
Yes. Okay. Does anyone have any other amendments or like suggestions? If not, a motion.
Wait, did we make this an action item in the agenda?
Oh, wait. Does this need to be voted on?
I think it needs to be voted on.
Because they're part of the E-code, right? Or an extension of the E-code?
Yeah, because wait, I think it's here. It's here. Yeah, here.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Maybe did me something, but okay. It has to be approved by council.
Okay. So can someone motion to make it an action item? Do we have to do that?
A motion to change the social media regulations to an action item on tonight's agenda.
Second.
Emily motions, Justin seconds. All in favor? Missing one person. Unless they're not voting. Okay, we'll just do by a vote of 8-0, the motion passes and the item was amended as an action item. So can we get a motion to approve it now?
A motion to approve the social media regulations.
A second.
Wait, I'm trying to see if we have quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alfred's not present. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Yeah. We do have quorum. So can I who was that? Justin motioned, I believe, and Zuleika seconded. All in favor? Okay. By a vote of 9-0, the motion passes and the social media guidelines are approved. Thank you, Alfred.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Okay, moving on to our last item of the night, we have surplus round 2. And I just added this to the agenda out of Versace's request about what we should do with the remainder of the surplus. I'm being mindful of the fact that we could get started with talking about surplus, but I'm not sure if you all want to do it this week. I mean, not this week, this quarter, or if you all want to wait till spring quarter.
I think, sorry, I didn't raise my hand, but I was going to say I think it's better for us to finish it ahead of time, and so folks know how much funding they have for their spring quarter projects.
I second.
Okay, y'all want to vote? I'm just kidding. Okay. How do other folks feel? I'm not opposed to that idea either. Christina.
I am fully fine with discussing it in winter, but I just wanted to bring up that at least for the Student Wellness Commission, I think maybe for some of the other commissions as well, we're kind of anticipating like having extra budget that will probably be donated. Maybe I shouldn't say this. I don't. Anyway, like we might be like donating some of our budget. I think so. I guess that might influence people's decisions. Like I don't want to, I guess, say it as like a factor or anything, but that would be something that we know in spring, but maybe not by winter. But I'm also fine with just doing the vote and win and like using that to inform other things. I don't know.
Thank you, Christina. And I think I would say that falls in line with like our general or our politic this year with like making sure that we are redistributing to students who are in need, in like kind of socialist model. So, yeah, I don't see that being a negative factor if we discuss in the winter. I would say it would just mean that there might be more room for Noe and company to distribute more money in the spring. So thanks for that. How about, if I proposed a timeline, how would you all feel about maybe doing it week 8 or starting again conversations in week 8? Week 9 would be the vote. So week 8, first round presentations, second round presentations, week 9, and then a vote that same week. Okay. I'm seeing sounds good. Other folks good with week 8. Can I get at least like 2 more people to say that they're good with that? No way.
I would just say that I'm also good with voting on week 9 because that would again help us when doing reading, being able to allocate the correct amount of awards. So I would be good with that timeline, and I'd prefer that week 9 versus waiting till spring.
Yeah, so Justin, week 8 would be when we would start the funding proposals, and then week 9 folks would finish up the same way that we did it this quarter, and then we would vote. And I would say we could vote in the same way that we did last time. That seemed to be, did y'all like that? Was that efficient? Okay. Okay. Cool. I'm seeing thumbs up. Oh, I'm glad you guys like the system. That's great. Okay. It was a little stressful. It was stressful, I will admit. But like I said, this year there wasn't one person who decided to vote no zeros on everyone, so it wasn't as bad as last year. Okay. So then we'll do that. We'll do week 8 beginning presentations, week 9 finishing them and voting, and then Emily and I will work on getting a number to you all about how much we have left in the coming week. But that we recognize that number is important. We just don't have it off the top of our heads. Unless Patty or Jessica do. I wouldn't expect y'all to.
Yeah, give me 1 second. So you're looking for the final remaining balance that you have okay. Give me 2 seconds so I can pull that up. Okay, and I'll also confirm, but it's looking like 241 with some change, $241,200. And then that also you would want to establish if you want to divide that up to capital contingency, et cetera, for that equation as well. Let me just double check it, and that's after that's also after the deductions that of the allocations that you've made previously. I'm seeing, yeah, sorry, I just had to reread one thing. Yes, 241, 252. Number I have.
Okay, thank you, Patty. So we're looking at around $241,000 to think about. And like Patty said, we might want to think about what next year would look like in terms of folks coming back to their offices, maybe needing more furniture. I don't know what that would look like. David, if you don't mind, could we task you with proposing that number if there is a number? That way it's not just arbitrary.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, let's do it. That concludes our agenda for the night. So we will end this meeting tonight at 9:49 p.m. Thanks, everyone.
The recording has stopped.